Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about Aristotle's theory of slavery. In the previous video we have talked about his one of the important theory, that is his theory on state. So you can visit that video and get the idea of what exactly is in his theory of state, right? So in this video we are talking about Aristotle's theory of slavery, right? So slavery as a concept is something which obviously is very which involves very much exploitation, right? But why Aristotle is talking about it? Because as I have already told you that Aristotle is a believer of natural inequality, just like Plato has categorized people into three different categories, that is man of gold, man of silver and man of copper. Similar way में Aristotle is also trying to categorize people. So basically, if I can give you a core of this theory in one or two lines, then he's actually trying to categorize people into two categories. That is, who are slaves by nature and who are masters by nature. And then he is trying to prove his point and why this person should be called as slaves and why this person should be called as master. As we have already studied that Aristotle is also a believer of common sense, right? He used to think that in order to understand what is right and what is wrong, no special knowledge is required. You just need to have the common sense. So in this video, we will see that how using his common sense, Aristotle is trying to prove his point on the slavery, right? Okay, so let us begin. So this is one of the most important statement which has been given by Aristotle, that slavery is natural as well as desirable. So we will understand in this video that how slavery is natural and how slavery is desirable in the thoughts of Plato. Sorry, in the thoughts of Aristotle. That why Aristotle thinks that slavery is natural and why it is desirable. Okay. Okay. So before that, let me take you through to the ancient Greece. What Aristotle says is that in ancient Greece there were two kinds of slaves. Number one was who are natural slaves, and number two were who were slaves by law. Right? So So the person who are slaves by law and the natural slaves. Natural slaves means the person who is slave by nature. So basically, in the Aristotle's theory of slavery, Aristotle is talking about this first kind of slaves. That is the persons who are slaves by nature, right? Now, whom Aristotle believes is a slave by nature, right? In order to understand this, let us see this categorization. So what Aristotle does is Aristotle basically categorizes people into two parts. He says that one section of people is slave by nature and second section of persons is the master by nature. Now, on what basis he is trying to or he is saying that okay, you are a slave by nature and hey, you are this master by nature. So basically, Aristotle is again going into the nature and he is trying to think that why nature has created persons with certain qualities. What he is thinking is that nature has made a person as physically strong, that he can fight, he can work for long hours, etc. And nature has also made a person be as mentally strong, that he can think, he can deal with the pressure, etc., etc. So what he is trying to do is he is actually looking at these two category of persons and he is trying to interpret the message of the nature, that why has nature made such a distinction, right? So what he is trying to do is he is trying to apply his common sense, right? He is trying to apply his common sense to interpret the message of the nature. So he's saying that nature has made some persons physically strong so that they can they can perform physical work for longer duration, While nature has made some men as mentally strong. Why? Because nature wants them to be involved in works which require mental work or reasons. Mental work or reasons. And here it is physical work. Right? So, what he says is the persons who are mastered by nature have the quality like they are mentally strong, and the person who are slave by nature are the persons with the qualities of physically strong. See, I know that there are persons who are both physically and mentally strong, but what we are doing is we are just trying to understand the thoughts of Aristotle, right? So there is nothing wrong and right in this because these are just the thoughts of Aristotle. We will also critically evaluate his thoughts, okay? But for now, you just try to understand that how he is trying to differentiate between categories of people. He is actually trying to put his common sense to interpret the nature of a message of the nature, that why nature has made someone as physically strong and why nature has made other as the mentally strong. Is it clear? Okay. So, as I said that he was trying to emphasize on the qualities. So, what are the qualities of the master that they were mentally strong? Along with it, or what was actually making them mentally strong were two things. Number one was the reason, and number two was the courage. So, courage and reasons were the two most important qualities of the persons who are of the category that is mastered by nature. Now, why reason and courage? Let me just go to the next slide. Now, the question arises, so we are talking about the persons who are mastered by nature, and the two important qualities of these persons are number one, they have reasons and they have courage, and this is what making them as mentally strong. Now you need to understand that why reason and courage. See, what he says that a master by nature, when we saying that master by nature is a person who is, sorry, who is able to take decisions, who is able to make decisions, right? That's why actually we are categorizing these people. So master by nature is a person who is able to take decisions. Now, decision making is a very tough task because it's not these kind of persons are not making decisions only for themselves. They are taking or making decisions for others. So when you make decision for others, there may be two things. Other person may like your decision, other person may not like your decision. So first of all, in order to make a decision, the first thing you require is the reason. When you have reason, only then you can take a right decision, right? So even if you have taken a right decision, there are chances that many people may argue against your decision or maybe against your decision, right? Many people may be against your decision. Now, in order to stand by your decision, stand by your decision, you need courage, right? In order to stand by your decision, you need courage. So second quality is the courage. So if a person does not have courage, then what is the decision or what is the importance of that decision which you cannot stand by, right? So hence Aristotle is saying the two most important qualities of the persons who are mastered by nature is that they have reasons and they have courage. Only then they will be able to make decisions. Is it clear? Okay. Next, let us talk about the man. or you can say who are slaves by nature, who are slaves by nature, right? So the persons who do not have reason and who do not have courage, right, are the persons who are slave by nature. So nature has not given them reason, has not given them courage, but has made them physically strong so that they can perform physical tasks for longer durations, right? For example, they can be employed in a factory, etc., etc. So, what he's trying to do is, what Aristotle is trying to do is, he's trying to prove his point that a person has to have reason and courage in order to be called as master by nature, and a person who does not belong to this category will be the slaves by nature. Is it clear? Okay. Now let us talk about the importance of the, or you can say utility, utility of the institution of slavery. That why Aristotle is so much interested in proving that this institution is desirable or natural, etc. Right? So utility of the institution of slavery. So what Aristotle says is it is both natural, as I have told you in his statement, and second he is saying that it is useful or desirable. Now the question arises, how it is useful and it is natural. First of all, let us understand why it is useful, right? Why Aristotle is saying that it is useful. So Aristotle says that it is useful to the economic system, to the economic system. See, when we are talking about the institution of slavery, we are actually talking about the persons who are slave by nature. Remember it, right? Who are slave by nature. So, what he's saying is that this system is very important to the economic system. Why? Because those who are physically strong can work for longer duration, right? Second is saying that it is also useful for the state. How? He says that when masters when master have a slave, then actually when master will have slave, or you can say when master will have an uh, when master will have a slave. So what master will do is master will be able to focus upon the important task, because other non-important tasks can be taken care by the slaves. For example, cleaning the utensils, etc., cleaning the home. These are the tasks which can be taken care by the slaves, where master can focus upon the tasks which are really important to him. For example, policy making, etc. So the more time the master will have to focus upon his work, the more you can say correct and effective policies he will be able to devise, or the more you can say inputs can be gone into the decision making of the master. Is it clear? So, or also it will also give master the time to improve its virtues or to work upon his virtues, right? So this is how it is important for the state. Second thing what he says is that it is important for the slave himself. This is very interesting. That institution of slavery is important for the slave himself. How? Aristotle says that we cannot do anything what nature is doing. Nature is making some person as slaves, some person as masters. Nothing can be done in it. But through the institution of slavery, Since slaves are getting, you can say, since slaves are getting a chance to work with the masters or to live with the masters, then there is a possibility that slaves may also incorporate some of the good virtues of the master, right? So in the good company of the masters, at least slave have the opportunity to develop some virtues. Therefore, he has also suggested certain reforms. He has also suggested certain reforms like like Aristotle says that if slave develop certain virtues or develop the virtues of reasons and courage, then master can make him free. First thing. Second reform that Aristotle suggests is that he was aware that slaves are not being treated properly. Therefore, he suggests that masters should treat or should take care of their slaves properly. Right? So, have you understood that why or how Aristotle is proving the institution of slavery as something of utility? Okay. नेक्स्ट वाई इट वॉज नेचुरल, ये तो हम समझ चुके हैं that why it is natural, because he has said that it is by nature. This is the message of nature, that nature has made two kinds of persons, one is physically strong, mentally strong, etc., right? So this is how Aristotle is proving slavery is natural as well as desirable. Okay, next let us talk about the critical evaluation. The critical evaluation. See, Aristotle says slavery is natural, right? So what you can write is, you can write that slavery may be natural. Slavery may be natural, but we do not live in nature, right? We live in a society, right? So survival of the fittest may be the principle of nature, right? It may be the principle of nature, but since we do not live in nature, since we do not live in nature, it is not the principle of society. We live in a society, right? So survival of the fittest cannot be the principle of society. Now, as Socrates has said that what is should not determine what ought to be, right? Right. Therefore, rather it should be vice versa, that what to be should determine what is. So this is how you can critically evaluate this statement in terms or using the words of Socrates. Number one. Second, how you can put more thoughts to it or to the critical evaluation. See, we all know that in contemporary times, no amount of utility, no amount of utility of the institution can justify slavery. Yeah, nothing can justify slavery, because slavery is such an exploitative institution, right? Because every person ought to be treated through dignity, to be treated with respect. Human dignity is something which is very very important, and when you are calling someone a slave by nature, directly attacks to his dignity, right? Every person has been created as a human, and every person has a right to live as human being. And every human being has a right to be treated with respect, to be treated with dignity, right? So human dignity is a principle which cannot be compromised, which cannot be compromised, right? So we can even quote Emmanuel Kant, right? Because he has, sorry, because he has given the principle of human dignity. What Emmanuel Kant says is, he says that every man is an end in itself. This is very important statement of Immanuel Kant, which we will study in our further videos. But for now, it is very much important for you to understand the crux of human dignity, or the concept of human dignity, which has been given by Immanuel Kant. So what he says is, every man is an end in itself. Hence, no one, no one ought to treat other person as a means to an end. So what we were trying to study in this slavery, that why how Aristotle was trying to justify his institution of slavery. He was saying that slaves are important for economy. He said that it was important for state, it was important for even the slaves, right? But what Immanuel Kant is saying, that we cannot treat other person as a means to other end. So this is something, these are some of the objectives, right? These are some of the objectives which Aristotle is trying to achieve. And what he is doing is, he is actually taking this by calling some persons as slave by nature. He is actually trying to make them as a means to achieve these objectives, right? He was actually trying, or he was actually justifying the concept of exploitation of the slaves just to achieve some of the objectives, right? Is it clear? Okay. So So, is it clear to you? So, every man has its own intrinsic value. Therefore, no one is to be treated as a means of utility.